Are we live yet? So, this is Eric's little hut that he's building. I'm calling it the Hollandic hut because it's in Holland. And Eric and I don't speak each other's languages. So, we're having fun communicating. And we also don't use the same measuring devices. I just want to remind people in Europe that your cathedrals were built using feet and inches. Okay, just want to remind you that. And so we still can build that way. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving Eric a little bit of a hard time because when I measure his wood, I'm reminded that we live in two different worlds, and I think what he's trying to do here is create a roof that is artwork, which is fine. But we have to take care of our structural issues first, you see. There's going to be people sleeping right here. And if you build the roof this way and it falls, then you might have a problem there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this roof over, and then we're going to talk about it. Let's move it over so I can move it back. Let's move it 30 feet. Okay. And we're going to start with we're going to start with a premise, but we're going to come up with two examples of a roof system. So, over time, we have developed these traditions in carpentry. And when we create gable roofs, we have rafters, and most of the time we'll have ceiling joist or collar ties, and those play a function. They have a function, okay? Because when you're looking at the forces, especially on a low pitch roof, okay, these rafters, because of gravity, this wants to come down, and since this is at an angle, and when it comes down, it wants to push out on the walls, okay? So that is what your collar ties do. Typically a collar tie would be up here. Let's do a search on collar ties. And here's a good picture. You see, this is the force that I'm talking about. These collar ties help keep the rafters from wanting to spread your walls apart. And if you don't have ceiling joist, here's another good one. This ceiling joist here ties your walls together so that as those forces come down, it doesn't want to push out. Okay, so here's another good example. Ceiling joist, collar tie. Okay, so when you design something like this, there is no in the middle here. We have nothing. We have no collar ties or ceiling joists. Okay, now someone who plays Call of Duty is in the comments right now saying, well, anyway, I was going to make a joke, but I couldn't come up with one. If you said to me, well, these are my rafters, okay, well, that's fine, but then you have to solve that first, okay? So let's just pretend that that is what you want to do. So what we have here is a span of, you see what it's going to do is make your span longer. Okay. We got 1710 and 7/16. I'm sure in metric that means something. I actually copied his model and put it into a American feet and inches. Let's see if I have any. Is anybody watching? Help me with the roof model in a SketchUp, please. Well, I can. After I help Eric, I might be able to help you. But so what we have to do first, okay, is solve our structural issues. And we have to decide which way, what are we going to call a rafter? What are we going to call our rafter? Are we going to call these our rafters? Or are we going to call these our rafters? Okay? Because everything else would be, one of these would be decorative, okay? If I call this my rafter, then this cross piece is just like some decorative member. You could call it a purlin that would help support the roof. But you see, if you call that a purlin, now you're placing the load of the roof on this one rafter. You see? So you have to solve, architecture is the combination of solving structural problems and architectural problems. Or art, solving your art is using, if you want to save someone's life, you want to use architecture, not art. Okay, so I want to start off with the easy one because I have this cool extension from Medic, this roof rafter extension. Okay. I'm going to say that our rafters go this way. Well, let me just cancel that for a second. I want to show you something. And here is a simple span table for Southern Pine. And the reason it says Southern Pine is because in America, we use a lot of what we call SPF, spruce, pine, fir, to build with, okay, because it's sustainable, it's very environmentally friendly, it's fast growing and easy to manage, and therefore we are tree huggers. But if you look here, see if I can zoom in. This is your member here, 2x6, 2x8, 2x10, 2x12. These are common in America, rafters. This is your spacing. 12-inch, 16-inch, 19.2, 24-inch. Now, the 19.2 is an underappreciated, and I actually use this pretty often, and I might go into that later. But I'm eyeballing this one right here, okay? Because I want to do something weird. Since Eric lives in a metric country, I might just do something weird back at him, okay? So the other thing that's common here is number 2. Okay, number 2 lumber is what we use for framing. Okay, so the main column you're going to look at here is here because number 1 is expensive. That has, very few knots or very tight knots, no cracks, no, it's graded very highly and it's expensive. So based on economics and physics, which are basically the same, we come up with this column here, okay? So you see here, a 2x6 at 19.2 will go 9'6", okay? And a 2x6 on 24-inch centers will go 8'6". So I'm going to say, what was it? It was 18 feet basically, wasn't it? So I'm going to use, I'm going to use this 2x6 at 19.2, okay? Let's see if Medic has 19.2 inch centers. So what we want to do is run our rafters, roof truss, roof rafters this way, gable roof. Okay. Now I would, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. I would normally, sometimes I would just draw these by hand. Now, roof pitch, I think that's 3.5 based on his. We're going to say this is 24. Rafter depth, we're going to say that is 5.5. Okay, so where's our spacing? Where's our spacing? Ceiling joist, no. Well, yeah, we're going to start off with no. And I'm going to show you how to take care of that if you don't want ceiling joist. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. Rafter spacing. All right, we do have 19.2. Good job, Madique. Good job, Nathan Wilkerson. Let's see. Gable rafter depth. All right, so we're just going to leave all this the same. Reframing. We'll say yes. Okay, I'm just going to leave all this the same for now. No. Yes. Let's just leave it. I can always change all this, okay? So, you see, that would be, this would be proper for this span. Well, actually, on a rafter, the span is the distance horizontally. It's basically half of the width of your building. It's the distance from the wall to the center of the ridge. Okay. So right here, what we have are 2x6 rafters. Okay. If we go back to our span tables, we have 2x6, 19.2. Okay. Now I'm going to fix the ridge. $19.2. Okay. Now we're going to kind of ignore these lookouts for now. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and fix them because there's a point to be made here, and I think what do I want to do there? I'm going to show let's say yes, and then we'll call them horizontal, and we'll update that. Okay. Require custom or none gable in rafter to the board. Okay. Well, we're going to ignore, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to solve a structural issue here. Now, your overhang on this can be done several different ways, but that's a different issue. What I'm trying to help Eric with is to get past this issue of not having sufficient rafters. If this is your rafter, then you're going to need to look at your at your rafters sizing and spacing. Okay. Now, here's what I'm going to say about the collar tie and ceiling joist. Okay. I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to get headroom up in here. And the other thing he's dealing with is that, he has a maximum height his building can be. Okay. Let me see if I have any comments before I go into this next thing. Hi, Tony. Finally, I caught you live and say hello. Tiki Bob, the burning toast. Can't stay, but not bad design. It's not. There's a difference between design and function. Okay, and we must understand that. You can't. You can say, well, that's very pretty, right? But it's not functional. There's nothing defined here. There's no roof structure defined. Okay, so you can say that's pretty and it's a nice design, but where's the structure? If I ask you what is supporting the roof, what are you going to point to? Are you going to point to this thing? Or are you going to support to these? What are you going to point to? What I'm pointing to is my rafters. Okay. Now let's answer this issue of ceiling joist and collar ties. Okay, so we don't have anything right now from keeping this building. And I have literally seen this before. I have literally, and on big buildings, okay, I've had to go take chains and come-alongs and pull walls back in because some goober didn't have proper structure, and the rafters were pushing the walls out, okay? They will literally lean out, especially in the middle, okay? These walls on the ends are holding the corners. This wall is acting as a collar tie for the corner, okay? But down here in the middle, this wall will literally push out, okay? Now, what you can do to solve that is, let's talk about the concept of a ridge board, okay? In a normal situation where you have collar ties and ceiling joist, the ridge board is not a structural member, okay? It's just there to have something to attach your rafters to. A lot of times, in the old days, you wouldn't even see a ridge board. The rafters would just be nailed together at the top. I've renovated some 100-year-old houses where the rafters just came up and met each other, okay? And then they had wood decking that kind of held it, kept them all separated. The rafters on the spacing they were supposed to be on, right? So the ridge board is not structural when you have collar ties and ceiling joists, but you can make it. You can turn it into a ridge beam, okay? Now, then what you have to do is find out what member, and this is where you start to get into more technical issues. You have to say, let's go in here and we're gonna change this. It's probably gonna have to be twice its thickness. Okay, let's see, am I editing it yet? Yeah. So that means I would have to come out, 3/4 this way. It's not gonna have to be quite as tall, just from my experience. Okay, now we made it twice as that, but normally your ridge board would be a 2x8. In the case of a 2x6 rafter, you would normally have the next size up as your ridge board. I don't know why this ridge board was so wide. It doesn't have to be that wide. Okay, so now what I've done is I've turned my ridge board into a ridge beam. Okay, so then what I have to do is support that ridge beam on each end with a post. Okay. And then I have to make sure I have something in the wall. So we're going to call it like a 4x4, or we could put two 2x4s together. Okay. I want it to go up to there. Let's see if I got that all selected. Yeah. So we would have two of them at least, like that. And then you would want to make sure you had the same post in the wall. Why can't I get out of that? There we go. You would want to make sure that you wouldn't want to mess up your layout, so you would just have extra ones in the wall like that, okay? What is going on here? Okay, so I'm gonna, I see that's inside that group. Okay. Let's take it outside the group for right now. We'll cut it, then we'll paste it back in place. So I can grab all this together and copy this, and I'm going to move it down here. And I want that to go even with that wall right there. Now you see what I've done? I created a beam now, and I should be able to edit these rafters. And of course your rafter would be put, you know, at the top edge of that. But I should be able to edit these. He should have these as, let's see if I can fix this easily. Let's see. Well, I'm gonna try to bring it back straight back. There. Like that. See. So now what you've done is you've eliminated the need for, and how did that get moved over? That's weird. There we go. Is that right on the other side? Am I going crazy? Somebody's hacking me. Don't tell me that moved on the other end. No. Okay, so now what you've done is you've created a post and beam effect. Now the load is completely carried by the ridge beam, okay? And there is no need for collar ties, okay? But when you do that, you see here you have no ridge. I don't know really what this is, to be honest with you. All you've got is your rafters. Your rafters aren't connected to your ridge, okay? Let's see if I have any comments. Can't stay, but okay. Right, so you see what we did was we solved that issue. If these are your rafters, we said these are our rafters, and we don't want collar ties, we don't want ceiling joist. So what we have to do is take care of the structural issues, which we did with a beam, okay? We don't have a ridge board anymore, we have a ridge beam. Now when the load comes, okay, the load is now transferred to the end of each of the ridge on each end onto this wall here, okay? And that load has to be taken care of all the way down to the ground, okay? Now, what I would do, I'm going to try to humor, let's see. I'm going to try to do this quickly. Let's see if I can do this quickly to Outlookers. Yes. What was the issue? I'm going to turn this vertically. I'm going to say update C. Structural outlookers require custom or none gable end rafter. Custom or none gable end rafter. Gable gable end rafters, custom. There we go. Now you see what that did? The little booger. I'm going to have to copy my... I want to copy this. What I should have done, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go outside. I'll paste that in place. Okay, so now what happens with this, and this is kind of cool, on this extension, when you make a change, it regenerates the whole thing. Okay, so I'm trying to save some time here because you all don't want to watch me draw every rafter. Okay, so I'm going to say update again. I'm going to say gable end rafters. Gable, where was that? Custom. And then we're going to change this to structural outlookers. Yes. What I'm trying to do here is show you vertical. Okay, here we go. What you can do is, and now I'm going to go in here and want to delete this. Ridge, okay, and see now my other ridge is still in there. Okay, my ridge beam. Now what you can do is build a wall, and I'm going to go ahead and explode this roof now. Let's see, am I going to do that? No, what I'm going to do is edit it first. Let's see if I take out that. Now take out that. Oops. I didn't mean to take out that one. Well, yeah, I need to. Okay. I'll deal with that in a minute. Okay. So what you can do is here, let's see if we can build ourselves a gable wall. This is one other cool thing about the Medique extensions is they have this new gable wall, and we're going to make it, one of the things cool is you can make this 0 and then put the pitch in there 3.5, and it would start right here. Go to here, and I need to turn off. Okay, so that's weird, so bear with me for a second. That's supposed to be 0, and it didn't catch 0. Update, there we go. And then we're going to turn off the wall sheeting. No. And wall cladding, no. Update, there we go. Now, and I knew what was going to happen. So this wall needs to be, well, I'll show you how tall this wall needs to be. Well, I'm going to have to do this. Pay attention to the concept of this, but don't pay attention to the actual framing. What you do is, I'm just going to draw it, okay? I'm just going to draw it with typical how can we do this? basically what you would do is build your wall to where it is. All right, let's put us a plane. We'll put us a plane right here. I know what to do. I'm just going to draw a I'm just going to do it right here. Okay. And we're going to bring that up too. So in this case, what we would want to do is make our outlooks two by sixes. And this is going somewhere, I promise. I bet he didn't make those. Oops. No, he didn't make them. Let's just, I'm gonna show you. Oh, this was supposed to be simple. Eric, I'm gonna get you now because the point, it depends on whether you, the whole point is to get this effect of this coffered ceiling thing that you're trying to do. I think what you're trying to do is you could run these blocks all the way across. So I'm going to explode this and I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show these as if right. Let me delete these. I'll save. Okay. So the point is we're going to build ourselves a wall. A gabling wall. It'd be nice if I was editing that. And this is kind of just pieced together. Not sure how that happened. I wasn't in the middle. Alright, so this is all getting kind of wanky, but the point I'm trying to make here is that we would have these if you wanted a coffered, if you want that coffered ceiling effect, you could just do it like this, okay? And this is just a demonstration of what you could do. And your wall would be, built on both ends. Okay, that's missing a I know there was like 20 ways simpler to show this wall, but I had to do it the most complicated way. It's funny how when you get into something, you don't want to change it, so you just keep going down the same old path. I'm going to change this one out now for the better one. The point is you're building a wall on each end, and that's going to also help support, but in that wall is going to be your support for your ridge beam, okay? And if you want these decorative things, you just pick your spacing. We're going to make a group out of that. And we're going to go up here. I think they were on 2-foot centers. You just just pick your whatever you want to do. But you see, the point here is you took care of your structure first, okay? These your rafters and your ridge beam, okay? Now the spacing, the spacing of the rafters depends on what size rafters you use, how thick they are, how wide they are. If maybe they're spread out a little more, and maybe this is spread out a little more. But the point is, you took care of your structure first, okay? And the way you did that with this magic ridge beam, right? And your overhang is going to be really strong because you're cantilevering this thing that becomes your coffer in here. If that's what you were trying to accomplish, is having like a coffered ceiling. I don't know if you know what that is. The coffered ceiling is is basically just a ceiling, broken up into a grid. You see, there's many different ways to do it. I'm not sure if that's what you were trying to accomplish here. So, if all these members get bigger, they get farther apart. Okay, so if you think these spaces are too small, then the other thing I haven't mentioned is that he's doing a warm roof. In other words, the insulation goes on top. I wonder if his insulation would fit on top. Yeah, almost. It's almost the same pitch. But the insulation goes on top of that and then his roofing material. So I'm just having to kind of assume that these were decorative, which is fine. But you see, there's no indication here of which is the rafter. Is this the rafter or is this the rafter? If you want to run the rafters across, then it would be different. You would take these. I think it's almost square. Okay, so you would take these same members and you would run them across this way, across your wall. Okay, but you take care of your rafters first, and then you do your other thing, whatever it is. Okay. See if we have any questions. Good morning, Alexander. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm trying to help Eric with this roof, but he speaks Dutch or whatever, and I speak English. I speak Southern English. So we're having a little bit of a language barrier going on, and I'm trying to figure out, which way, if his rafters run this way, then they need to go first. Those need to be solid members all the way down, unbroken. They need to be based on some kind of logic, which is, here's where I was showing cathedrals used with feet and inches. But anyway, I'm just kind of joking about that. But you need. I did find these kind of European span tables, but I don't know why I'm having such a hard time finding span tables like we have here in America, where it's just very plain. You list the member, the common member here, and then you have the spacing. And then this is your grade of lumber, and it tells you what your span is, okay, and the spacing. So you have to do that first, and that's how I did this. These are 2x6s at 19.2 inch centers. Now, I meant to mention the 19.2 inch centers works on 8 feet, okay, for plywood purposes, okay. So let's go down here, be the next one. You see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 8 feet. Okay, it doesn't work out on 4 feet, but it's okay because when you offset when you offset the joints on your OSB or whatever your decking is, it's just not perfectly in the middle, but it's still offset. But the thing about it is, this 19.2 inch centers works really great for some applications. Especially if you have floor trusses. If you have floor trusses, you will see that you have this huge nailing surface, 3.5 inches wide, right? So if you put floor trusses on 19.2 inch centers, if it works out with the spans, then you really only have about 16 inches. You have a little less than 16 inches between them, so you don't have that much of a span. But then you have this big, wide nailing surface, And sometimes it just works out really good. And it's not a very commonly used spacing, but I use it, honestly, I use it probably 5 or 6 jobs a year. Um, uh, so, what time is it? I need to move on to another project, but this is just an example, Eric. Figure out what your rafter spacing, what your rafter needs to be, what the spacing is, and take care of that first. And if you don't have collar ties or ceiling joists, you're going to have this ridge beam to support, the load, okay, and to keep. You see, once that beam becomes a structural member, that ridge becomes a beam, then you don't have to worry about these rafters pushing the walls out. See? So I hope that helps. And the reason I'm not doing this other side over here is because I want to leave this, as your structural part. The only thing that you would have is you'd have to have, if I just explode these, you do have to have your lookouts on each side. Okay, see? So you can't, you still have to have those because that's what's going to support your barge rafter, your overhang out here. Okay, and my idea was just to, whatever that spacing is, continue it. If you want this coffered look, just continue it on across like this. But then you would have support for your barge rafter each end. So anyway, I gotta move on to another project, and this was a freebie, so I can't spend too much time on it. Let me see if I've got any more questions here. That could be a challenge. My wife and I, well, yeah, that could be a challenge. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, the whole point of this video is you have to determine your structural issues and take care of them first. That's really, and if you're not going to have ceiling joist or collar ties to keep these walls from spreading out, then you have to take care of that issue first, which is why I have this beam up here, which is like a 4x8. Instead of a ridge board. So anyway, thanks for watching, and Eric, I hope that helps. And I gotta go take care of some paying customers. Thanks, guys.